ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Wildcard Weekend Overtime. 2 games to kick off Wildcard Weekend, both AFC contests. We'll get all 3 of the AFC games out of the way right away. Tomorrow we'll kick off Wildcard Weekend Sunday action with the 2-seeded Bills taking on the 7-seeded Denver Broncos. But today, as we customarily do, we kicked off with the Houston Texans, or the winner of the AFC South, taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. This was thought to be a game that the Chargers could handle. I think we all went into the postseason with this mindset of everyone's fighting over the 5th seed, right? Who doesn't want to play the Texans? The Texans, after the Steelers, you could argue the Texans were the weakest team going into the postseason of any of the postseason teams either side of the bracket. The Steelers clearly were struggling. And so did it felt like the Texans were too. And the Texans took care of business. We're going to talk about that game first. Then we'll get to the nightcap. Ravens, 3rd-seeded Ravens, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, the 6th-seeded Steelers. A rematch of, when did we get that game? 3 weeks ago, I believe it was, week 16, if I'm not mistaken. 3rd time those 2 teams have locked horns. Ravens have taken 2 out of 3 now from the Steelers. And we'll finish up our assessment of tonight's action with that game. But let's get to the game that kicked off Wildcard Weekend. And before I say that, Mo Lester, shut your bitch ass up. 32-12 was the final score in the first game of Wildcard Weekend. And I was watching this game and I said to myself, I know the Justin Herbert haters are gonna really have a field day with this one. And I'm a Justin Herbert stan. So I'm gonna defend him tonight. But he was not good today. Let me say that right now about Justin Herbert. He wasn't good today. And this was not a good representation of who he is and what he's been for this Chargers organization. But the talent discrepancy showed tonight. And I've been talking about this all season as it pertains to Justin Herbert and how there's just not enough talent in Los Angeles right now. He's a one-man band, essentially. He and Ladd McConkey are it. And the offensive line isn't very good, especially on the interior. They got bookend tackles, but the interior stinks. There are no weapons for him to throw the football to. Johnston can't catch claps in a whorehouse. I mean, you want to believe that he's getting better, but all of the goodwill he built up earlier in the season when he was actually catching the ball, he's destroyed it the back half of the season into the postseason. He was awful today. He had 5 targets, 4 drops, no catches for Johnston today. Like, at this point, you can't even throw him the football. Did Josh Palmer even play? Did he play? And again, I can't stress this enough. Will Dissly can't be your best tight end. He can't. What happened to Stone Smart today? He was coming on like gangbusters, at the end of the season and becoming a real problem within that offense. I don't even know if he had a target today. There's just not enough talent around him. The run game isn't good enough. And J.K. Dobbins started off fast. So, you know what? Enough of the Chargers. We'll come back to the Chargers. I'm going into full Justin Herbert defense mechanism mode. Let me start with the victors. This was not a great game by the Houston Texans. Let's start there. But a win's a win's a win in the National Football League, and we don't give them back. And they scored 32 points. But by no means was this clean at all, especially the start to this game. So I thought that the best thing I saw today was the Texans defense. That was the best thing I saw today. Probably 1A, 1B with the Ravens rushing attack. But the best thing I saw today, I think, was the Texans defense. They made plays. They did a great job in sudden change defense. They did a great job of limiting the damage that was being done by their offense. They did a great job of neutralizing Justin Herbert, disarming him. And early on, they were having a little bit of issue with the run game, especially that first drive. And then they shut the faucet completely off and said, Justin, if you're going to win this game, it's going to be on your shoulders, partner. And when the opportunities presented itself to make a play, to take it away, they did so. That's what they've done all year long. Kalen Bullock is a beast at safety, and he's been a stud. He had a mistake on the Ladd McConkey 86-yard touchdown, but he's a problem. But my goodness, that Georgia corner, what's his name? Why am I blanking? Number 4. Lassiter. God damn, he's good. Shit. I've been watching this dude all year. I didn't see this coming out of Georgia. I'm not gonna hold you. I didn't think he would evolve into what he's evolved into in year 1. That interception that he had, where it was a post corner, and he turns and he locates and he goes up and he high points that bitch and snatches it out of the air with all hands. I said, oh shit, that was beautiful. Almost brought a tear to my eye. I said, well, damn, I want some of that action right there. That's the kind of corner we need. And then they feasted on Charger mistakes. They blocked the punt. They blocked an extra point, picked that up, ran it for 2 points. They picked off Justin Herbert 4 times. Took one to the crib, almost cribbed another one. They were spectacular defensively. The only guy they had no answer for was Ladd McConkey. But that's the only guy the Chargers have on offense. Outside of Justin Herbert, that is. So I thought their ability to absolutely wipe the run game out and force Herbert to have to beat them, I thought that was phenomenal. Much credit to them for being able to get that done. And I thought the pass rush was really disruptive, especially in the second half. Once that momentum shifted and Uncle Mo went to the Texans sideline, it was crazy because that sequence that happened right before the touchdown to McConkey for 86, that was a crazy sequence. He had 2 straight sacks. It's 3rd and 1,000,000, and he hits McConkey. I talked about Kalen Bullock, who's been awesome. That was the big mistake he made. He went for the interception because that's what he does, takes it away. And McConkey jumped up, caught the football, split the 2 safeties, took off, touchdown. Then the extra point gets blocked. And their kicker, Dicker, the kicker, doesn't know that this isn't a batted ball on a pass. So once it touches the ground, it's a dead ball. No, bro, you can't bat that on the ground. You got to catch that and take the hit. You took the hit any damn way. They blasted his ass. You took the hit anyway. Catch the bitch. He bats it on the ground, gets mollywopped. It gets scooped up and scored for 2 points. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong in the second half for the Chargers. But you got to credit the Texans defense. They were suffocating because their offense wasn't very good today. You know, and despite the yardage and the numbers for CJ Stroud, the Texans offense wasn't very good. A lot of what we saw from Houston and a lot of what the scoreboard reflects was really a byproduct of their defense, if we're being honest. You got 2 points on a block extra point that they scooped up. You got a pick 6. You got another interception that put the ball pretty much inside the Chargers, 10-yard line, 15-yard line. You had another interception that they had that I think the other 2 were kind of further down the field. They stopped the Chargers on a 4th down. That gave them great field position there. This was a slow start to the game. I thought CJ Stroud, I thought he was good. As I played the game back, I thought he struggled early. Man, it was rough. Early for him was rough. He threw the interception. I don't know what he was doing decision-wise. He would roll out of the pocket, there'd be pressure, and he just throw the ball up for grabs. Like the second interception was the wildest thing ever. He threw a corner route to the Chargers, essentially. Like the safety Leonard is just standing by the sidelines, and CJ Stroud throws the perfect ball to him. He jumps up, gets both feet down. Like, what the hell are you doing, CJ? Bro, what are you doing? Seriously, what the hell are you doing right now? And then he could have got picked off 2 or 3 other times. Henley dropped one on the sidelines. And I'm like, yo, bro, what are you doing? Seriously. Then he got away with one with the safety who picked it off. It's a damn Florida State safety name. Derwin James picked the shit off, but he didn't complete the catch throughout the process of going to the ground. And I'm just like, damn. CJ's making some real irresponsible decisions out here. But the thing that I liked was he didn't let that early rough start get to him. And he started to use his damn legs. And for whatever reason, CJ Stroud does not want to run. He can't slide. So those were some of the worst attempts at slides I've ever seen. He slides with his knee for some reason. But I'd rather him just dive forward than to slide with your knee. That's how you hurt yourself. But he started to run. That opened up things for them. He started to become a playmaker, not just a passer. For some reason, CJ Stroud does not want to run. And when he started to run, it really opened up their offense, it felt like. And I thought that's the turning point. This is a 6-0 game. A 6-0 game. And then CJ Stroud takes off for he hits the big play to Nico Collins and then gets Nico again for a touchdown. They get down there, they score a touchdown. And then they get the stop, they get the ball back. He has a 27-yard run They get in the field goal range, and they get 10 points in the final 58 seconds of the first half. And that changed everything. You know, for as bad as they had played in the first half, they had no run game. My wife, me and my wife were watching the game, and she's like, why are they not? Is Joe Mixon hurt? Is he not playing? Because has he even gotten the ball yet? And I'm like, you know what? And we watching the same game. I'm like, I said, you know what? I'm not sure if he's gotten a carry yet. I had to look it up. We were early stages of the second quarter. This man had 3 carries for 6 yards. And they made a concerted effort, did the Texans, to just not run the ball. Like, we're not running the ball because we can't, and it's hurting us, which I didn't think they gave Joe Mixon enough opportunities early. They just put it on C.J. Stroud's shoulders, and he wasn't handling it well early in the game. But it was that little sequence before the half. They weren't getting Nico Collins involved. Then they started to get Nico involved, and everything changed. And then Stroud started using his legs. And then in the second half, Joe Mixon came alive. And all of a sudden, especially at the end, right, that fourth quarter, when they just kept handing it to Joe Mixon, and the Chargers just felt like they ran out of gas defensively. They were able to, and you know, all of the turnovers and the mistakes that the Chargers were making offensively, it all caught up with them. Like, they just ran out of gas. But I thought Stroud settled in, started to really pick them apart. Then the run game started to come along, and you saw a team that gained confidence offensively as the game wore on. But I'll assure you, if they played the offense the way that they did, the 32 points doesn't quite tell the story in this game. Obviously, you get the last touchdown was pseudo garbage time touchdown, where, you know, the Chargers, I don't want to say they had waved the white flag, but they were beaten by that time of the game. It was over. They had nothing left. But, you know, the pick six, obviously, the other interception that put them in, you know, chip shot field goal range, and the block extra point, you know, so many mistakes by the Chargers. Then the offensive line collapsed, and you got to credit the Texans for getting pressured. Danico Autry and Will Anderson might have had 2 or 3 sacks in this game. I know he had 2 for sure. One play, they just turned him completely loose. That had to be a miscommunication with the offensive line. Herbert clearly didn't know that they slid protection and that he was hot on the right side, because Will Anderson came unblocked, and Herbert was surprised. Like, oh, shit, where are you coming from? So then the next play, Danico Autry goes from one A-gap to the other A-gap, and not a single Charger interior offensive lineman touches him. Like, unreal. Yeah, it was rough. Then he throws an 86-yard touchdown pass after all of that, getting sacked two plays in a row. But then they have the extra point blocked in return for 2 points. So, like, even when they did something right, they did something wrong. And then Herbert throws 2 more interceptions. It was a rough day. But Mixon really got cooking in the second half, ended up with over 100 yards after a very, very quiet and reserved first half. Was really the guy that was the Pro Bowl player that we, you know, saw tearing the league up early in the season. He looked like that guy in the second half. And Nico Collins showed why he's one of the best receivers in football. And again, this Texans offense is harder to stop when C.J. Stroud is willing to be a runner. For whatever reason, he does not want to run, but he was at his best in college in that game against Georgia when he decided he was going to be mobile. And he was at his best today when he decided that he was going to be mobile. And that has to be something that he's willing to do moving forward. Big win. 2 years in a row now. CJ Stroud makes it to the playoffs, gets a home playoff game, and wins in Wildcard Weekend. We'll see if he has a better outcome in the divisional round than he did a season ago. They went to Baltimore last year and lost. We'll see who they play in the divisional round and if he can be more successful. They're going to have to play better than they did in that first half. I can assure you of that. And they're going to have to minimize the mistakes and the turnovers. C.J. Stroud, I would guess, he ended up with 2 interceptions in this game. My guess is he probably had, I thought he had 2. I guess he only had that 1, just the one on the sidelines. My guess is he had at least 5 turnover-worthy plays where either a guy dropped the ball or they had a chance at an interception. It would have been a tough catch, but they had a shot at it. And he was really, really reckless with the football. He's really got to clean that shit up. But big win for them. You know, for as much shit as everyone was talking, me included, I'm guilty as charged. For as much shit as everyone was talking, for them to go out and win this game decisively, going away the way that they did, to dominate the second half the way that they did, that's big time. That's big time. Because I know they heard it. I know they felt it. I know they heard people talking shit. I saw Joe Mixon had some choice words for Rex Ryan, who called the Chargers game against them a bye week. So, you know, look, the Texans weren't playing good football going into the postseason. Who are we kidding? And so no one was afraid of them. And as I said, all the wild card teams were fighting over the 5 seed. Like, yo, let me get that. No, let me get that. No, let me get that. And the Chargers, this was the matchup. This was the matchup Chargers fans wanted. This was the team they felt like they could beat. Of all of the division winners, this was the team they picked out and said, hey, we feel like we can beat them. We know we can't beat Buffalo. We know we can't beat Baltimore. We don't want any parts of Kansas City. This is the one, though. We know we can beat the Texans. You got what you asked for. A wise woman once told me, but be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. The Chargers got what they asked for, and then they got their ass beat to a damn bloody pulp. And to me, it started early because they had opportunities. Can somebody explain to me why these teams? So I don't even think the Texans had their roof open. You know, my wife was like, why did they shut the roof? I'm like, that's a good question. I'm like, maybe they thought the Chargers would be at a disadvantage because if you saw the way that the sun was shining, it started at the middle of the field and then it went to the Chargers sideline. But I don't even know if that was the roof or it just looked like it was like a window off to the side or some shit. It just looked weird. I'll just tell you that much. But they had the ball first and they marched it right down the field. And they had to settle for a field goal. I'm like, you need to finish that drive off with a touchdown. But, you know, shit happens. Get points. They got points. Then the Texans fumble, right? And they got the football with great field position. And they're like, my wife is like, they need a touchdown here. I'm like, you said it, sister. They need a touchdown right here. They don't score a touchdown right here. They are in trouble to me because you're wasting and squandering opportunities to get off to a fast start and really put this Texans team behind the 8 ball. Maybe start to have them say to themselves, here we go again, right? They've been struggling. Remember, the last time they played a home game, they got demolished 31-2 against Baltimore on Christmas Day. So if you jump on these dudes early, no telling what they're going to do mentally, how they're going to respond. You score a touchdown, you go up 10-0. The Boo Birds may come out. They may start to get down on themselves. They may start to press. C.J. Stroud, who was already pressing early in the game, might give you another one, right? But they kicked the field goal. And that's why I said you got to credit that Texans defense because they stood tall in some tough situations early in the game. Another example, you get great field position, right? C.J. Stroud throws an interception. And what do they do on the first play after the interception? Justin Herbert throws an interception, gives it right back. You're like, unbelievable. No, you didn't just do that, did you? You really just gave it back to him? And they just didn't take advantage. And then I thought about this as it happened in real time. Right before the half, when they were playing the Ravens on a Monday night, Herbert had, I want to say it was Josh Palmer, streaking up the middle of the field on a deep post, open for a touchdown, and he missed him. And in this game, for some inexplicable reason, the Texans let Ladd McConkey behind them in a 7-6 ball game. And the only thing that was different this time was that Herbert had pressure on the play. He had pressure. And so he had to avoid a defensive tackle, kind of reset after shrugging off that defensive tackle, and then he let it rip. And he overshot McConkey by about 2-3 yards. And that was the shot. That was the chance. It was just like the Ravens game. I said, oh, shit. Now, that's when I said, oh, y'all finna lose. I picked the Chargers to win this game, by the way. So I was 0 for 1. Because I thought they were going to go in there and win. And early on, it looked like that was going to be the case. But obviously, they didn't take advantage of that first half. That was very uneven for the Texans. And before you knew it, you looked up, and as bad as the Texans played in the first half, they were up 10-6 at halftime. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's not good. And, you know, the Texans came out in the second half, and they moved it down the field, and then they turned it over. And the Chargers did nothing with the turnover. And that was the story of the game, is they did nothing with opportunities. Nothing. And then they went for it on the fourth down. First of all, any play that you're running that requires Quentin Johnston to be the primary target is a faulty play, and it's DOA. That's bad scheming. That's bad game planning. That's bad play calling. He should be the decoy. On anything that you got to have, he can't be the primary target. On 4th and 2, you can't be running a whip route to Quentin Johnston. Can't do it. Ladd McConkey's the guy. He's built for the whip route. He's the most reliable receiver you have. He's got everything you need. 9 catches, 197 or 8 yards. And the only touchdown that they scored in the game. You got to go to Ladd McConkey in that situation. But Justin Herbert can't throw 4 interceptions. Look, I get it. Quentin Johnston dropped 4 passes today. Josh Palmer was a no-show. Will Dissly stinks. Look, that's harsh. He's not a TAE 1. He's not a tight end 1. Okay, he's at best a tight end 2. They have nothing but Ladd McConkey on offense. And it showed today. Offensive line on the interior from guard to guard stinks. And Herbert himself, I think, doesn't run enough. I don't know if some of the injuries that he sustained over the life of his career has, changed the way he plays fundamentally, but he used to run. When things would break down, he used to take off. He doesn't run anymore. He'll stand back there and he'll take a sack. He'll drift, take a sack. You're just like, yo, bro, get out of there. He wasn't good today. As much as I want to, place blame elsewhere, and look, it's enough blame to go around. Offensive line wasn't great today. Receivers obviously weren't good today. 2 of his interceptions went through the hands of his intended target. The pick 6, it was high. And that ball had no business being high to Ladd McConkey. But it went right through his hands, right? The first of 2 picks that Derek Stingley Jr. caught, that went right through Will Dissly's hands. Like, they didn't do him any favors, but he didn't do himself any favors. He wasn't very good in this game. And it's unfortunate because if he's not good, they don't stand a chance. He is their team. So they've got to do a better job this offseason of building around him. They know what it is now. They got Greg Roman. They know how Roman likes to operate. This is always the fear when Greg Roman's your offensive coordinator, is that you're not going to be able to maximize talent around a quarterback, which is why they moved on from him in Baltimore, because you kind of put yourself in a box when you run his offensive scheme. I worry about that for Justin Herbert. I thought Jesse Minter and his defense did a hell of a job today until they finally broke and let go of the rope. But that was a defense all season that had done a great job of not giving up a lot of points, and they were doing it again until the floodgates opened in the fourth quarter. They were doing it again, and their offense wasn't helping them, and the offense was putting them in tough spots, and they continued to stand up, but eventually you keep having yourself be put in these situations, and you continue to not have the offense stay on the field and move the ball, and you keep getting put on the field. Eventually, the dam's going to break, and it did late. But I thought the defense gave them every opportunity to win the game. So unfortunate. If Derwin James is able to corral that interception like we thought he did initially, that could have changed a lot of things, because I think the score at that time was 17-6. And I think they ended up kicking a field goal. That was a big one, though, if I'm not mistaken. That was a big one, because that could have changed everything. Momentum could have swung there. They also got a personal foul on Joe Mixon that would have gave them an additional 15 yards, because he would have been down in the end zone. And who knows what happens there, right? But obviously that didn't happen. I thought a big play in the game too was Stroud's snap that got away from him. He picks it up. This is a third down deep in their own territory. He rolls to his right and he finds Hutchinson way down the field. And that was what kickstarted that first drive where they finally got points on the board to take the lead. And then he had the big run, and that led to the field goal. And just like that, boom, boom, boom. It's 10-0 or 10-6 at half, Texans. That was a big play in the game. Really big play in the game. But the Herbert haters out there are going to have a field day with this one. And as much as I would like to say that there are all these different factors and, make excuses for him, he didn't play well. I mean, the completion percentage was shit. And again, some of that was drops. I just told you that the pick six was, or the first Stingley pick was right through the hands of Will Dissly. That wasn't his fault. The pick six, again, that was his fault because it was high, but it did hit both of Ladd McConkey's hands. But that's high with hot sauce to go on it. There's no excuse for that from Herbert. You can't throw that ball high to a 5'11", 6-foot receiver like that. And then I think he's got to run more. I think he's got to use his legs to get out of trouble. Like, too often, I think he just almost statuesque back there. The run game was good early. It was non-existent after, I'd say, the midpoint of the second quarter. Gus Edwards got off to not Gus Edwards. Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins got off to a fast start, especially that opening drive. Probably midway through the second quarter, you couldn't get anything out of that run game. And yeah, I credit the Texans defense for stepping up. They really did a great job. But big win for the Texans. And still a really productive season, year one for Harbaugh in Los Angeles. They need more talent. I just question, what is the ceiling with Greg Roman as your offensive coordinator? What's the ceiling? We'll see. Texans move on and win 32-12. In the nightcap, really not much to see here. Ravens dominate the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. This was a 21-0 game at the half. I will credit the Steelers for at least fighting back and showing a pulse in the second half, because in the first half, they were lifeless. I mean, they had Kirk Herbstreit on the telecast snapping, right? I mean, he said, "Where the hell is the fight?" I said, "God damn, Kirk, you act like you got money on this shit or something." Kirk was not happy. He's like, "Yo, where the hell is the fight? If you're the Steelers, this doesn't look like the Steelers team we know." He really, I thought the first drive of the game for Baltimore set the tone. I thought the Steelers lost the game at the coin toss. They won the coin toss and they elected to receive. Yeah, I thought they lost the game right there. Because if you win the coin toss, you elect to receive, and then you don't go down and score, well, you just wasted your advantage by winning the coin toss. You just threw it away. The point of winning the toss and receiving is to go take the ball and score and set the tone. If you don't do that, now you run the risk of the score getting out of hand and them getting the ball to start, or whatever the score is, they get the ball to start second half. And they promptly, went 3 and out, gave it to Baltimore. Now they punted it and pinned it down at the 1 or 2 yard line. And then I thought that first drive from Baltimore set the tone. Like, damn, they drove that bitch all the way down the field, 98 yards or so. And Lamar capped it off with a Rashad Bateman touchdown pass. And Lamar ran it like 5 or 6 times on that drive and really, again, set the tone. And then I thought some of the most demoralizing shit I've seen in recent memory. I've been a part of some really rough drives late in games when you need a stop and you can't get it. I remember Marion Barber killed the Redskins on a Sunday night late in the game. It was a low-scoring game, but we needed a stop to have a shot. And I think they might have given it to him like 9 straight times, 10 straight times, and run out like the final like 4 or 5 minutes of the clock. It was vomit-inducing, to say the least. I watched the Ravens run the ball 13 straight times on an 85-yard drive. I can't recall a team going 13 plays, 85 yards, scoring a touchdown, and not taking to the air once. Now, obviously, it's been done before. But and I think we got the statistic at halftime that it hadn't been done since 2006. I mean, let that sink in. You're talking about almost 20 years ago. You don't do that in today's modern NFL. You can't drive the length of the field on just running the football. You can't do it. Because all it takes is one negative play or one, no gain or one minimal gain on first down. And now you got to throw it. One 2-yard gain on first down. And now it's 2nd and 8. And if you run it again and you get 2, now it's 3rd and 6. You can't run it on 3rd and 6, right? Or a -2 is 2nd and 12. You're not running it on 2nd and 12, but that never happened. They were getting 5 and 6 a pop because they were crashing down on the running back and letting Lamar keep it. And they had no answers for Derrick Henry. God forbid they gave the ball to 22. Lord have mercy. They act like they never seen the Ravens before. Like, that was the worst performance they've had against Baltimore the entire season. The question now becomes, as we get as we really dive deep into this game and the aftermath of it, is what does this mean for Mike Tomlin? Because this shit's getting old now. Like, the jig is up. Everybody kind of knows your move. Your move is we're going to make the playoffs. We'll do whatever it takes to make the playoffs. 9, 10, whatever that looks like. We'll get in as the 6th or the 7th seed. Usually no higher than that. And we will be dispatched of and disposed of immediately in Wildcard Weekend. And a lot of times, it's not even close. You forget that the Steelers were even in the playoffs. It's so quick. One year it was the Chiefs. Another year it was the Bills. This year it's the Ravens. They are a threat to no one. And that first half was an abomination. You got to credit the Ravens. Lamar was a willing and dynamic runner. Derrick Henry was unstoppable. He had 100 yards in the first half. He had 13 carries, 100 yards in the first half. They couldn't stop the tight ends. And Lamar was doing whatever he wanted to do. I think he was 13 of 15 for 145 or 46 yards and a touchdown in the first half. 2 touchdowns, excuse me. Had the crazy play at the end of the first half to forgot the name of the running back, 43. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but they had no answers for him. And like they said, the Steelers were putting up little to no resistance. And it almost looked like they didn't game plan to stop the Ravens. Your game plan can't just be, all right, crash down on the running back and let Lamar keep it. That can't be just like, okay, that's what we're going to do. Because they didn't even handle that well. No Zay Flowers, and that's the best defensive effort you've got? Like, make it make sense. I'm confused. What did y'all do at practice all week? But defensively, I thought the Ravens were really good in the first half. I thought they had some miscues in the secondary. Pickens can't catch that touchdown and split 2 guys on the touchdown catch. They had they gave up 3 straight big plays on 3rd down on the first scoring drive in the second half for the Steelers when it was 21-0 to allow the Steelers to at least have a pulse. And those were some significant gains to 3 different receivers. One, they had them backed up all the way at their own end zone, and they let Calvin Austin get them on a 3rd and long. He took a while up there, but he held on to the football. Justice Hill. Thank you. Rip Meast. Sean Taylor. And Russ started to, come to life, but credit the Steelers or the Ravens defense for, again, taking away the run game and making Russell Wilson beat them. And they kind of knew he can't do it. He can't do it. And for whatever reason, the Steelers are so stubborn, and we're going to talk about them in a second, but I thought that second touchdown drive by the Ravens took the Steelers' heart. That was incredible. 13 plays, 85 yards, all runs. Incredible. to do what they did without Zay Flowers was really impressive. He'll probably be ready next week, is my guess. But for him to not play in this game and for them to just pretty much take it to the Steelers in the manner that they did without their best wide receiver, pretty damn good. And again, anytime you can take the potential two-time, now, maybe three-time back-to-back reigning league MVP and reduce him to 21 passes because you're having so much success on the ground, that has to feel good if you're the Ravens. I think they doubled up the amount of times they ran it versus how many times they threw it in this game. Lamar only had 21 pass attempts, if I'm not mistaken. I think they ran the football like 55 times, if I'm not mistaken. Something crazy like that. They dominated him. Lamar had, 15 carries? 15 carries himself. Derrick Henry probably had another 21. Justice Hill probably added in another 6 or 7. What's that? Let's see. Did they run it 45 or 55? Probably more closer to 45 would be my guess. Let's see. 26 for Derrick Henry, 15 for Lamar, that's 41. 6 for Justice Hill, that's 47. 2 for Mark Andrews, that's right. They had the couple of those little sneaks with Mark Andrews. And then they had the Steven Sims jet sweep. 50 runs to 21 passes. 50 runs. And they ran for 299 yards. The Ravens had over 300 yards in the first half, a total offense. To the Steelers, 60. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It was total domination in the first half. Total domination. One team looked like they belonged. The other looked like they didn't even, they had no business being in postseason play. And so that's a great start for Lamar in his postseason journey this season, because it's all about the playoffs for Lamar. We could talk about Lamar's, MVPs, and he may add another one to his resume this year. But when it's all said and done, his legacy is going to be determined by what he's able to get done in the postseason. And so this is a great start. And Derrick Henry makes a big difference, clearly. Clearly. That man almost ran for 200 yards tonight. He was ridiculous. They had no answers for Derrick Henry. None whatsoever. Boy, I just think about the Dallas Cowboys and how much different their team would have looked this season if they would have signed Derrick Henry. What a mistake that was. What a mistake. I think it was Waterboy when he goes, "What an idiot." Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the Cowboys not signing Derrick Henry. That's crazy. He's so good still. I think we had the conversation about whether he was a Hall of Fame player already or not. He's a Hall of Fame player. Derrick Henry is. You go to the Steelers side of things, and I think the biggest question that you walk away with here is, what does this mean for Mike Tomlin's future as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Trust me, Mike Tomlin would get a job immediately if anything were to transpire. They're not going to fire him. That's not a Steelers move. We've heard rumblings about a trade potentially taking place. I don't think anything's going to happen, but at some point, I think the Steelers have to start entertaining, doing something different. Like, how many times are you going to bang your head up against this brick wall? And I just think maybe Tomlin has run his course in Pittsburgh. I mean, they got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. And here's my biggest issue with the Steelers. under the Mike Tomlin. They're just too effing conservative for their own good. He wants to play this physical brand of football where they're the tough guys and, you know, we want to bludgeon you to death. And they're just not built for that anymore. This ain't 2009. This ain't 2010. They don't get down like that anymore. They didn't pick up Najee Harris's fifth-year option for a reason. You're only going to get so much out of the quarterback position as is. This is what kills me. So I'll give you a few examples of why they can't win under Mike Tomlin, and then I'll talk about their defensive performance tonight, which was just egregious, and then we'll get to the comment section. So in the first half, I still don't know how Pat Freiermuth doesn't manage to get this first down on 3rd and 2 with a quick, flat pass that he catches, turns up the field. Great tackle by Ardarius Stewart to get him down. And I'm thinking about the running back. What is his name? Ardarius something. Washington, excuse me. Called that man Ardarius Stewart. I'm thinking about the damn receiver from Alabama, not the safety. Ardarius Washington. Great tackle, first and foremost. But Pat Freiermuth needs to get that first down. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I still don't know how he didn't get the first down. But it's 4th and literally 2 or 3 inches. And Mike Tomlin, they've already given up a 98-yard touchdown drive for a touchdown already. And Mike Tomlin decides to punt. No hesitation. No thoughts of, not even let's try to draw them off sides. We'll take a delay of game. If we're going to punt anyway, what's 5 yards going to kill us? Nothing. Pulls the offense off the field immediately, punts the ball, and then Lamar and company go on the 13-play, 85-yard touchdown march. All on the ground. And so that in itself is it's a level of bitch-assness there. Now, look, I'm not sure how many teams would actually go for it in that spot. I'm not telling you that he was wrong in his decision to not go for it. I would have liked to have seen him go for it there. Literally, a quarterback sneak. There's no way you're unless you fumble the snap on the quarterback, there's no way you're not getting that first down on the quarterback sneak. It's just almost impossible. But okay, you punted. And I would have at least had the offense go out there and try to draw them off sides. At a bare minimum, they're thinking you're going to snap this ball and go quarterback sneak. And you could have gotten them to jump, I think. But he didn't even attempt it. They punt, they give up the touchdown, and it's 14-0, and so forth, so forth. So you get to the second half. It's 21-0. They go up tempo. And I think it was 21. I think it might have been 28-7 at this point. Whatever it was. Second half. And they start to go tempo. I think it was 21-0. Let me look at the chart, because I don't think they scored on their first possession down 21-0. I don't think. I think they scored on their second possession when they was down 21-0 in the second half. Nope, they scored on their first possession. So this was the possession. It was 14-0, excuse me. So after that 13-yard marathon drive on them, they go up tempo, right? Now they're trying to change the pace of play. And I'm like, yeah, I'm liking this. They're spreading them out. Russ is in the gun. They're going quick. And I said, this is working, right? They get a couple of completions because they hadn't done jack diddly poo squat. I don't even think they had a first down up until that point of the game. So They finally get a first down, get a couple of nice completions, and they're going tempo. And then they get an incompletion on first down, which is all right. Shit happens, right? Matter of fact, the ball was batted in the air. Incomplete. Instead of them going back to the air, spreading out the Ravens, this is the first time they've had any semblance of success. Instead of them going back to the air, they hand the damn ball off. They they either lose a yard, gain a yard, or get nothing. And now it's 3rd and long, and obviously they don't convert, and they got to punt again. I'm just like, what was the point of that 2nd and 10 run? What were you looking to accomplish? You haven't run the ball with any effectiveness tonight. The Ravens stopped the run. What were you looking to accomplish with that damn 2nd and 10 run? What did you think you were going to get, 5? What did you think you were going to catch them off guard? They're too damn conservative. We're having the same conversations that we were having earlier in the season when Justin Fields was in the damn game. And even when they bring him in, there's no plan. There's no plan. They're not setting anything up. Something has to change in Pittsburgh. I think Mike Tomlin needs a change of scenery. I think the Steelers need a change of scenery. I don't think anything's going to happen. But something needs to be done. I'll just say that. Something has to be done. They defensively, they just look beat tonight. The offense for the Steelers scores a touchdown, gives them some momentum, and next possession, they give it right back. Derrick Henry up the middle, 50-yard touchdown run. Like, what the hell is that about? You get a stop to start the second half. You give them life. They score a touchdown. Now you got momentum, and you give it right back. The offense then goes down, scores a touchdown after that, cuts it back, the lead back in half, and you can't get it. I mean, they had the ball once more, but you couldn't get a stop there at the end. The defense wasn't good all night. They didn't get any pressure on Lamar for the most part. They could not stop the run to save their lives. I've said this all year long about Pittsburgh's defense. It's a good defense. It's not great. And you can move the ball and you can score points against them. And that's what happened tonight. So I wonder if anything's going to change in Pittsburgh. My guess is no. That's my guess, but we'll see. Big win for the Ravens. It's exactly what the doctor ordered for them, kicking off their playoff run. And want to see who their next opponent. If it's Buffalo, that's going to be a great game. And that's going to be interesting because you know what the talk is going to be surrounding that game if Buffalo takes care of business against Denver. Is you're going to get the two quarterbacks who are one of the two is going to be the MVP squaring off against each other, and this is going to be they're going to make this a referendum on who should be the MVP. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of which, it's a perfect segue. Transitioning to Sunday, we got 3 games kicking off a triple header on Sunday on Super Wildcard Weekend, starting with that Denver Broncos Buffalo Bills game at 1:00. Then the Eagles Packers at 4:30, and then at 8 you have Commanders at Bucks. That should be a hell of a day of football, and I think you could see. I think you could see some road teams win on Sunday. No road team won on Saturday. I think that's going to change tomorrow. Now, Buffalo is or Denver is capable of going into Buffalo and winning. I don't think it's going to happen, but that defense is good enough. And I've seen Josh Allen and that Bills offense struggle at home against some lesser opponents, Tennessee and New England in particular, but they ultimately won those games, right? So it'll be interesting to see if that same Denver defense, essentially, they give or take a piece or two. That same Buffalo defense or Denver defense went into Buffalo last year on a Monday night and beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Different Bills team this year, obviously, different set of circumstances, but I said that to say this: they're not going to be afraid, and if it's going to come down to can Bo Nix and that offense score points. If they can't, and if Bo Nix is turning the ball over, they don't stand a chance. But if they're, hanging in there, even if they got a punt and the defense is playing ball, they're going to have a shot. Green Bay game is going to be interesting because it's Hurts' first game in 3 weeks. So there could be some rust there. And they're going to rely heavily on the run game because they're not going to just ask him to come back and just throw it 30 times. They want to run the football. And if Green Bay can't stop Saquon Barkley, then that game's over before it starts. If Green Bay is to have a shot, they better be able to run it with Josh Jacobs. If they can't run the ball with Josh Jacobs, they don't have a shot. Because now you're asking Jordan Love to go in there and have to win the game with his right arm. A right arm that wasn't functioning properly last week against the Bears after it went numb when he hit his funny bone. So, and you lost Christian Watson for the remainder of the season to a torn ACL. I don't think it's a very realistic ask of Jordan Love to go in there without the aid of a run game and beat one of the better defenses in football. If they can run it, they'll have a shot. They got to run it and stop the run. They'll have a shot. Because they got to be in that time of possession fight with Philadelphia. Keep their defense off the field. And if they can do that, they'll have a shot in that game. But that should be 2 home teams winning to kick off the day. And then the nightcap, obviously, Bucks, Commanders. That one's going to be fun. Like, we really didn't see any offensive fireworks today. We might see some tomorrow. If there's any game that looks like it could deliver that, it's that nightcap on Sunday night. But again, we'll see, right? We'll see what that game brings. They put it on Sunday night for a reason, so we'll see what happens. But let's get to the comment section. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Arthur Smith and Russ in 2025 is wild work. Tomlin got to find a young creative OC and a QB to work with moving forward. It's been super stale on O. But here's the thing with Tomlin. It doesn't feel like it matters who the offensive coordinator is. The offense just seems to look the same. Now, I'll grant you that they haven't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. So I'll grant you that. But the offense, I think, is largely dictated by Mike Tomlin's, way he wants to play, the style that he wants to play. I think he dictates, how the play calling, kind of goes. So I don't know if Arthur Smith is to blame. And, Russ got hot. This is the one thing I can say about Russ. Russ can still throw a deep ball. Some of those throws tonight, the one to Mike Williams up the left sideline, the one to George Pickens when he split the 2 defenders, scored the touchdown, the throw to Calvin Austin over the middle of the field on that 3rd down when they were deep in their own territory. The throw to Van Jefferson for the touchdown. Are you kidding me? These are all tremendous throws by Russ. My biggest issue with Russ is at this advanced stage of his career, and one, I don't think the Steelers, and I didn't think the Broncos did a good enough job of this. They had a built-in check down for him at all times in Seattle. A guy would just literally stand at the line of scrimmage at receiver, out wide, just stand there. So when Russ would start running around and doing crazy shit, if nobody was open, he could just get it to that guy. It was always a guaranteed gain of 2, 3, 4, 5. He needs that outlet. Every time Russ panics, he drops back, first read, taken away, second read, he just starts to fade, rolls to his right, and then throws it away. So you just wasted it down because Russ doesn't think he can get away. You got to keep that check down for him. That should be built into the offense. And then like Russ has no issues taking the check down. Like it'll be 3rd and 11 and Russ will check it down to the running back. And you're like, bro, come on, man. Seriously? Like you're not even going to try to make something happen? You're just going to check it down to the back for a 4-yard gain and punt? That's the type of time we on? Russ be too eager to get rid of the ball because at this advanced stage of his career, he ain't running nowhere for real. So it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Relevant Jesse, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Relevant Jesse, thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, just super chatting because Miss P is awesome. I don't know how much you watch the chat, but she's holding it down. Always. I already know the value that Miss Playoff P brings to the table. That's why she's the GOAT. That's why she's the GOAT. Thank you, Relevant Jesse, for pointing that out, though. Sometimes people need to hear that, you know? Corey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Corey writes, I had a feeling if the Steelers got blown out, they might have fired Tomlin. But since they kept it somewhat close, I don't think he's going anywhere for now. Even if they got blown out, I don't think anything was going to change. But I think there would have been more conversation. At least they showed a pulse in the second half of this game. And I think them showing that pulse at least showed that they didn't quit on him. But something needs to change. And I still think Mike Tomlin is a hell of a coach. And if you put him with a quarterback in a situation where he doesn't have to do as much on that side, like he can motivate a team. You just got to get him in the right environment. So I think something needs to be done. But again, I just don't see anything being done, if I'm being honest with you. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, hey, Lou, I finally figured out why the game looks so different now. Not only are the players slimmer in a way, the shoulder pads aren't as big. Also play more spread out and not crashing up the middle. All of these things are facts. I was looking at Ronnie Stanley today, and I was like, man, Ronnie Stanley looks really slim at the tackle position. And you're seeing more and more athletically gifted guys. Even though they carry 315 pounds, they carry it well. Doesn't look like it did once upon a time. The shoulder pads are definitely smaller. I mean, just go back to the early 2000s and look at the shoulder pads. Look at Jamal Lewis's shoulder pads when he was a Raven compared to Derrick Henry's shoulder pads. It's night and day. It's not even comparable, right? And yes, the game is definitely spread out more, for sure. I mean, because it's all about space. It's all about space. How much space can you create? Never ending ass stench even after showering. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I missed the Super Friends stream. How did that go? You can still watch it. It's up there. It went just fine. It's there. Game Bomber 1 TV 2. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, fun fact. Jason Garrett and Mike Mularkey have won a playoff game more recently than Mike Tomlin. Really? Is that true? So Tomlin's last playoff win was what, 2016? Mike Mularkey was in Tennessee. Yeah, Marcus Mariota won a playoff game in 2017, I believe. Mariota's rookie season was 15. I think he won that playoff game in his second year, or was it his third year? So if it's his second year, then Tomlin's last playoff victory is in 2015. If he won it in his third year, then Tomlin's last playoff victory is in 2016. Jason Garrett, let's see. He got fired in Dallas in 2019. And the Cowboys beat Dak's only playoff victory prior to them beating Tampa Bay was against Detroit. That had to be in 18 maybe? That's wild that it's been that long for Mike Tomlin that we over here talking about that kind of shit. That's rough. That is rough. Yikes. Eric Bienemy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, y'all are in the offs because of me. Remember that, Lou. Yeah, you're right. We are. Because without your incompetence, we don't get the number 2 pick and we don't get Jaden Daniels. So you're not wrong. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel. Let me now that we taking supers, let me move this up to the top of the screen so it's not being covered up. Video channel writes, double up, let me double you up first before we get to it. Video channel writes, Mike Tomlin is the Doc Rivers of the NFL, question mark? Quite possibly, yeah. Quite possibly. Both have won one title. Both are highly regarded, but don't seem to win in the postseason. Quite possibly. Biggest difference, though, I will say, is that Doc Rivers has had some really good teams he's coached with high-level talent that had the ability to advance further, and they didn't. I don't feel like Tomlin has had that type of talent. We've never said over the last 8 years, man, Mike Tomlin underachieved with this team, other than that Steelers team that got bounced back in 2020, I believe, by the Cleveland Browns. But that team started 11-0, and it was a house of cards, and they finished that season up really rough. And you could see the writing on the wall with that team. So I don't think he's had, like, you know, a team where you go, man, they should have gotten a lot further than they did. Doc Rivers has had teams like the 76ers have never been to the Eastern Conference Finals, never under him. That's a farce. You know, they had some really talented teams. Obviously, Rivers had the Bucks last year. They get bounced in the first round. Now, obviously, Giannis was hurt and this, that, and the third, but he hasn't, you know, gotten it done. I just think if Tomlin had that kind of talent, he might be able to be successful. But I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're that far off with that comparison. Eric Bienemy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Pickens needs a coach like me who knows how to get his best players the ball all the time. Like I did with Terry and Washington. Y'all needed me, Lou. I don't even know how to respond to that. We definitely needed you to get us where we are now. That's for sure. Never ending ass stench after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? LB still on his ish or what? He cool, but he could be a bit insufferable at times. But then again, most Eagles fans are for whatever reason. Of course, he's still on his ish. That's not going to change. Yeah, that's not. I don't think that's ever going to change. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? You think the game has passed Tomlin? No, I don't. I do think that he has this old school mentality, but I think like when he had Ben and he would air the shit out, and he'll be aggressive at times, but he's got to trust his bunch to be able to be in that mind frame. I think if you give him an offense that's capable of carrying their own weight, you'll see him be a little bit more aggressive. I could see why you would ask that question, though, because I talked about the 3 yards and a cloud of dust mentality, how they always seem to go back to the run game, even when it ain't working. Like, at some point, I thought they should have just spread out Baltimore, spread them out, and threw the football. That was their best bet. And they even went up tempo and they started to have some success. And for some inexplicable reason, they felt the need after an incompletion on 2nd and 10 to go back to the run game for whatever reason, as if it was working. The only thing that had any semblance of success in this game for Pittsburgh was the pass game. And I don't think they did it enough. Russell Wilson was 20 of 29. This needed to be a 40, a 40 attempt game for him. That was going to give them their best shot. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Lou, still early, but what are your first roster moves? I was doing for our Commanders. BGM for a second. Yeah, it's early. I can't have that conversation with you right now. I'm so locked into the postseason and what it's going to take for this team to win. Once it's done, I mean, I think we can all kind of see some of the things that we need, but I haven't looked at any free agents. I can't tell you who's going to be a free agent this year because I'm not concerned with that right now. I can't tell you about any players in the draft. I haven't watched any of them, to be honest with you. So I can't tell you what's going to happen. You can look at some of the players that are here and say, okay, I know he's probably not going to be back next year, or we need one of these, or we need one of those. But hard to say, like, what we should or shouldn't do, or what we will or won't do at this current time, because we're so locked in on trying to win in the postseason, if that makes any sense. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Any offseason, of course. I knew what you meant. Game Bomber 1 TV 2. Double up. Thank you for doubling it up. Who writes? Anthony Lynn has also won a playoff game more recently than Tomlin. Yeah, I think they showed the Chargers winning in 2018. That was Lamar's rookie season with Phillip Rivers. Yeah. It's been a while. Point taken. It's been a while since Mike Tomlin's won a playoff game. Just point taken. Ebad Shamim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Steelers should blow it up. Don't understand why having a winning season yearly is important when everyone knows you won't do anything in the playoffs. And there is something to getting, because you just want a chance, right? Getting to the playoffs is significant because it means you have a shot. You're one of 14 teams with a chance to hoist the Lombardi. But to your point, nobody ever expects the Steelers to do anything of note. Like, they're not going to just surprise the entire NFL and get hot and beat the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, and teams of that ilk. They're not built that way. So you got to do something different. And I understand, why having winning seasons every year is important. Because again, without it, you don't have a shot. And I thought Tomlin's quote spot on, like it always is. Tomlin's very eloquent with the way he speaks, and he always has profound things to say. And he said, that's not their baggage. That's my baggage, that we haven't won. This team has nothing to do with the last 5 times I've lost in the playoffs. So that ain't their baggage, that's mine. And I gladly tote that baggage, because how many other teams and how many other coaches can say they've been to the playoffs every year or don't have a losing season? Like, yeah, I want to win when we get to the playoffs, but I'd rather have the shot than not, essentially. I think they should entertain what life without Tomlin looks like and kind of figure out if that's a route that they would be willing to go. That's just not how the Steelers organization is set up, though, right? The Rooneys are very loyal. That's why they've only had 3 coaches over the last 50 years. Right? So I don't see them doing anything. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? More specifically, current players, even more specifically, Allen and Payne. Look, I personally think that something could be done with one of them. Allen is the one that I look at and say, if they're going to do something, it'd be him, because next year will be the final year of his deal. And so there's value in trading him this offseason if you can move him. I think Payne is a guy that I think Payne has value to them, even though he hasn't played up to his full potential. He serves a purpose. He serves a purpose. Yeah, we'll definitely be able to dive into the roster once this season is done, but hard for me to focus on anything but trying to win playoff football right now. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Last question. You attending any games next season? I don't know. My first inclination is to go no, but my son wants to go to a game very badly. I find it very hard to believe that my son will attend his first game and I won't be there with him. So there could be a chance that I could be at a game next year, because my wife has talked about wanting to take my son to a game. And while I have no interest in going to a game till they get a new stadium, that may take place. So I'm going to say no for right now, but that's not as definite a no as it has been in the past. I'll say that right now. Never ending ass stench even after showering. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Actually, one more. Which playoff team is the best? 05, 12, 15, 20, or this team? I think 05's team beats this team. This team is, but they got to go out and prove it. And the reason I say that is 05 team couldn't score. By the time we got to the end of that season, Brunell's arm was shot. We had no receivers on that team, after Santana Moss, obviously, and Chris Cooley. And so I think Taylor Jacobs was our second best receiver then. David Patton had gotten hurt. And yeah, we were a mess in 05. Defense was outstanding, though, clearly. But 12 was a good team, but obviously we had our deficiencies there because of Robert's injury. But it was a solid team. But that of all of those teams that you got listed there, 12 was the least talented team. 2012 was the least talented team. 15 was a solid group, but they weren't great on offense or defense. They were just coming into their own offensively, and they weren't very good defensively. And in 2020, I lied. That's the worst team of all of those teams. 2020, we had no business in the playoffs that year. None. Zero. So I told a story. I'd rank those teams. This team this year, because of Jaden Daniels, none of those teams have Jaden Daniels. So this year's team is 1. 2012 is 2. 05 would be 3. 15 would be 4, and 20 would be 5. I think 2012, coaching staff, they were dynamic offensively. They were up 14-0 on Seattle. And if Robert doesn't get hurt, we're going, not only are we going to beat Seattle, I think we could have beat Atlanta the next week. I just don't think we would have been able to beat San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. All right. So that I digress. That's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T, here on Wildcard Weekend Overtime. So we got our first 2 games of Super Wildcard Weekend. Neither of them all that entertaining. The first one, Justin Herbert showed his ass pretty good. Pause. But it also highlighted the fact that he doesn't have a great roster around him. But more importantly, the Houston Texans are alive and well, and their death has been grossly exaggerated. And, they're one of those teams that they have a dynamic player at each level of their offense. They got a dynamic quarterback, a dynamic running back, and a dynamic receiver, and they can make some things shake if they can settle. And they had a lot of penalties today too, and it's something that I didn't bring up because when you win by 20 points, you don't really harp on the little things. But that's another reason they can get their ass beat next week is they had too many damn penalties today. They had 8 penalties for like over 80 yards. Like, that's loser football. So they got to clean up the mistakes. They had probably 5 or 6 turnover-worthy plays. They got away with some shit today. I'll just say that. They got away with some shit today that against a better team, they won't get away with it next week. But, they were really good defensively. My goodness, they were good defensively. And C.J. Stroud, when he runs, is a different quarterback. In the nightcap, the Ravens' run game was just incredible. 299 yards on the ground for the Ravens tonight. They outgained the Steelers 316-60 in the first half of this game. Unbelievable. They had 299 yards rushing in the game. They had a 13-play, 85-yard drive featuring all runs and was up 21-0 at half. The score doesn't even truly reflect how clean of an ass whooping that Steelers or that Ravens victory was over the Steelers. So hopefully we get more competitive football in Sunday's action than we did Saturdays. Now, I would love my team to, get one of these nice, comfortable victories, but shit ain't happening, right? It ain't happening. Steve, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Steve writes, Lou, I agree with you that Tomlin squeezes the most out of subpar teams. Without a quarterback, how far does one expect him to go? I think that's the thing that either you got to go get him a quarterback, which is hard because this this is the dilemma of Mike Tomlin, right? And I always bring this up when I talk about him because it's very important that you state this. Mike Tomlin said to Chase Young, I never want to lose enough games to draft a player like you. And his career bears that out. The Steelers under Mike Tomlin have never lost enough games to be a top 10 pick. And as far as he's concerned, they never will. You win 9 games every year, you're middle of the pack to close to the 20s, and you're not getting a quarterback doing that. You're going to have to trade up. But again, nobody wants to trade. Like, I don't want the 3rd pick and trade all the way back to 18. Nobody wants to do that. If I earn the right to pick 3rd in the draft, I want to stay in the top, 5 to 7 picks. I'm not trying to move out of the top 10. So it's hard for you to come from, 18 all the way to 3. The Steelers, I feel like if you give Tomlin an upper echelon quarterback, he can do damage. But we see the stuff he's been trying to make work here of late. It ain't good enough. But also, he's been the one, picking these quarterbacks too. So you can only do so much. A wise man once said, you can't do epic shit with basic people, right? Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, are the dreads ready for tomorrow, Lou? Dreads? What are you talking about? Anyway, I know it is ready tomorrow. The watch party is ready for tomorrow. And again, if you guys are out there, you're having a watch party tomorrow. I want you guys to be in attendance. You know what to do. Link is in the description of this video. I'll pin the link to the comment section. And you got any questions, hit me up, LouieTeeNetwork@gmail.com. You can DM me on X as well. Got till 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to purchase your ticket so you can be in attendance at the watch party. And I have a ton of fun. Bart Scott. Can't wait. In any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Wildcard Weekend Overtime. Saturday edition, doubleheader. Chargers fall to the Texans 32-12. Texans advance to the divisional round where they await the winner of that Broncos-Bills game to see what is going to take place. If the Broncos win, then they'll be seeing the Ravens next week, will the Texans. But if the Bills win, as we anticipate, those Texans will be heading to Kansas City as they did on a Saturday afternoon about 4 weeks ago. So they'll see what happens and where they'll be going. Meanwhile, Ravens dominate the nightcap 28-14, double up the Steelers, beat them for the 2nd straight time, faced this team 3 times this year, won 2 out of 3, the last 2 to be exact. Now they await the winner of that game as well. If Buffalo wins, they go to Buffalo. If Buffalo loses, then they will be hosting the Houston Texans. So the Ravens may get another home game out of the mix. Just depends on what happens with the Bills on Sunday. So with that said, I'm going to glide to the side and get out of here and allow you guys to do the same. You guys take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Now, obviously, I will be with the watch party, so I won't be doing videos for the first 2 games of the day, but feel free to pop in on the watch party and talk about the first 2 games. And even on the post game, I may talk a little bit about the first 2 games, but that won't be much because we don't have as much time on the post game as we normally do. So, but I'll be watching as always. So in any event, you guys take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow, especially those of you who are going to be in attendance at the watch party. Can't wait to meet you guys. Bart Scott, can't wait. Until then, you guys take care. God bless. Good night.